I'm Diane McGarry, here with Dracut Arts.
And I'm Tom McGarry.
We're here with Robert Bekker, a classical guitarist. He's going to be playing for us on January 26th at 7 p.m. at Christchurch United. That's our Weekend Arts event, and we'll tell you more about the other programs that day later on. Robert, thank you for coming today.
My pleasure.
So you play classical guitar, but I remember you saying that you didn't start playing classical music.
I didn't, no. As a child, my parents put me in a general music education for the first year. I think it was 5.
Uh-huh.
And then I did recorder, which most kids used to do, and I switched to the French horn.
Oh, wow.
I played it for 3 years, and the idea was that I would play with the symphonic band,
Wow.
which is actually brass mostly. But I was too intimidated. I was too young and too intimidated, so that never happened. And then we moved, and I switched to trumpet because the kids said, like, trumpet is much cooler than the
Oh, yeah.
French horn. And that never clicked with me. So then I followed my passion, which was guitar, for a long time already.
Huh. So have you always played classical music on the guitar, or have you done other genres as well?
No, I started with writing my own songs, actually.
Oh, wow.
In combination with, I had an old reel-to-reel, and an uncle of mine gave me multiple tapes. And several of those had Pink Floyd, the early albums of Pink Floyd.
Oh my gosh!
I used to play along with those.
That's very different. So what drew you to classical music?
I wanted to make it my profession, to be a musician. And then I thought, like, you can, of course, start just be in a band and try that path. But I wanted to take it seriously, so I wanted to have an education. And I figured, if you do an education, you want to go with, well, the masters. So that's how I decided to do classical guitar.
You actually built a guitar, is that correct?
My very first guitar, yes.
And I think you studied a lot to learn enough to be able to do this. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I was very fascinated by the instrument already for a long time, but then I started to be at that age where I was a bit more independent and was able to pick up things. So I started to read all the books in the library, went to every music store and took measurements of guitars.
Oh, wow.
Never bought one. So these people must have thought like, oh. Yeah, and my father's a carpenter, so I would be able to use his woods and his tools and yeah.
Excellent.
But that's a very difficult process, isn't it, to build a guitar?
Yes, it came out a working instrument, but it was not a very good instrument. And I did build a bass guitar after that, but that was a failure. And then I decided that's not going to happen.
Okay.
So this is a nice instrument that you have with you today, and there's a little hole in it somewhere. That's unusual.
Yeah, that's actually nowadays a lot of guitars have this. It's called a sound port.
Okay.
This guitar didn't come with it when I bought it. But I was playing with my wife. We had a piano-guitar duo. And well, the piano is usually loud, and I would play loudly. But then we had a concert in, I think it was in Spain. And I heard a recording of that concert, and I heard I was playing really, really loud all the time. I felt like that's just not nice.
Yeah.
And I figured I was playing loud because the piano was right behind me with the lid open, so I hear a lot of piano. And I don't hear enough of this, because this guitar is built to project almost all the sound it produces away from it. So when you're sitting behind it, you don't hear that much.
No.
So I went to the theater, said like, I need a sound port. And he took a drill and gave me the sound
Oh
port.
my goodness.
Excellent.
So now the sound comes out closer to your ears. So
To some degree, that's not that much.
But a little makes a big difference.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Would you mind doodling a little bit and showing us some of your...
Doing well, doodling is always a little funny, but yeah. A funny change to major there, but yeah.
You did bring a few places to play for us today. You had in mind a few.
Yes, I wanted to play 2 pieces. They're all a little long, so I'm trying to condense one of them. It's the theme and variations on a theme by Mozart for the Magic Flute. It's written by Fernando Sor, and it comes with an introduction, which I'm going to skip. And I'm going to skip one of the variations to just move it forward a little faster.
Oh, sure. Please give us a taste of your wonderful playing. I can't wait.
So I have to adjust my positioning a little bit, because this is normally how I sit, where the guitar is right in front of the center of your body, basically, and you get equal access to every position on the neck. So.
Really? Yay!
Thank you.
Oh, wow.
So I noticed, of course, that you're playing each string individually. You're not strumming the entire set of strings, which of course is...
Yeah, we use every possible way to produce music, not just sound, but music.
But could you talk about the difference in fingering and the way you use the instrument in classical guitar versus jazz or blues or folk singing?
That's there's obviously a large gray area. You know, when you become very prolific in playing jazz, you'll use a lot of techniques that are similar to what I'm doing. Because, well, if you look at the guitar, the idiomatic way of writing is you play a chord, and on that chord there's a scale existing.
Yeah.
And you combine those basically to produce sounds that are pleasing. Right. In classical guitar, besides the wide variety of music that you have, composers tend to try to look for either the extended possibilities of the instrument or to be as pure as possible with the music. Like polyphonic music, or in this case, you have a clear melody and then a separate accompaniment, so they do not blend into each other that much. They stay quite separated. And that separation, that layering of music is really what makes the classical music on a guitar well, appealing to me at least.
So, but you would never use a pick. You have longer fingernails to do that with.
Yes, I use fingernails and I use a bit of acrylic on top of them. I plug the strings with my fingers. These three fingers and the thumb. The pinky is only used for rasgados, which is a flamenco technique, where you go over all the strings.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
And that's a different style altogether.
Oh, neat.
A bit more focused on rhythm and on the color of the instrument and so much on melody.
I also noticed all of the finger placements are extremely precise, and earlier you mentioned it's very, very difficult to play classical guitar well, that it's one of the more difficult instruments, even up with piano, perhaps more difficult than piano, so maybe you could speak about that for a minute.
Yes, because well, for the piano you only need one finger for one tone, and the note is always focused on one key, there's no exceptions. But I just did a calculation the other day, the central C that I can play, that this is one way to play it, but I can also play it here, and I can use different fingers of course. I can play it here, I can play it here, and I could also play it as a harmonics, like this. So I think it's like 13. I lost count.
A whole bunch,
Yeah, so there's all these decisions you have to make, and then there's the right hand where you have to choose which finger you're using. Because luckily, at least you can say, okay, this is half my hand, and then the fingers is the other half. The thumb is used for the basses, usually, and then the fingers are used for the melody and the accompaniment. So that is kind of like, okay, to some degree, covered. Yeah, so that's one part of the complexity. The other part of the complexity is that when you play the note, you have to be exactly on time with this finger when you strike it, because if I'm too late, see there's a little deafening there. And if I don't place it well, I lose energy on the fret, and that makes a funky sound. And also you lose tone quality. That makes it very complicated.
But playing an instrument is very complicated. It's more complex than people give thought to.
Comparison to the piano is not fair, because look at the amount of repertoire that pianists tend to play, and well, the best repertoire is found in piano literature, not in guitar literature. That's why we take so many piano compositions and make them into guitar works.
Okay.
So that's what we do. There's, for example, there's Johann Sebastian Bach. We all know Johann Sebastian Bach. He wrote a few pieces that are titled for the Lautenwerk, for the lute work. And the guitarists thought like, hey, a piece for lute. But there's no evidence that he ever wrote anything for the lute, because the Lautenwerk was actually a keyboard. That sounded like a lute. Had a lot of sympathetic strings, had gut strings instead of the metal strings that he used to have. And the plucking system was slightly different from the regular clavecembal or the keyboard that he used to have. So we just took it and now we're playing it. And that's, a lot of the transcriptions that we play are now known as lute suites, but they are actually from the violin partitas mostly.
Nice.
So, we cheated a little there.
But it's important to build repertoire.
It's essential. Without the repertoire, the instrument has no meaning. Having said that, though, the guitar obviously is an instrument you find in every culture, basically. Not every culture, but worldwide you see the guitar in a lot of musical styles, which gives it also the the perception of accessibility. So you pick it up and you play a few chords and you're good to go.
Not really. I tried that once at Girl Scout camp. It did not go very well.
No, it's not that obvious, but you only discover that when you try it.
Yeah,
Right?
that's true.
If you don't try it, and it has that perception. Everywhere I work as a teacher, when people pick up the violin or the cello, there's an expectation that you're going to work and be serious about it and excel. And with the guitar, as long as they're having fun, is the general quote that you get.
Really?
Yeah. And I have nothing against fun, but I rather use the word joy, where you put some effort in it and then you get the joy of it's a different experience.
The fulfillment of the art.
That's the word I was kind
Yes,
of.
the fulfillment. So when you play, what does the music do for you? How does it fill you? I know I get filled with music just spiritually and emotionally constantly. How is it for you?
I can be touched by music, of course. It's a strange thing because you choose music as your profession and then all of a sudden everything changes.
Oh yes.
Everything. And that part of me being emotionally touched is just for me. It doesn't generate any money.
Well, it's also difficult to be touched like that constantly because it takes a different part of you, I found, right?
Yeah.
You need to, when you're performing, it's a different place inside your soul and yourself than playing just for the joy of playing.
I used to work together with a singer who was selling me this idea that you get into a trance and then inspiration would come through you and then you would like have this amazing concerts. He came from the Black Church and that's where he kind of like got that idea from. And I've tried it for several years and it was just hopelessly painful and never generated anything useful or something to be proud of.
Well, that's what worked for him.
I don't think it worked for him.
Okay,
It might work for people. It didn't work for him, though. But I get where it's coming from. But I think you can only get to that place when you dedicate most of your time to it.
A lot of hard work gets you
Yes,
there. Exactly.
yes. Yeah.
And
Lot
then
of
you get to
dedication.
that place without the grounding, without the fundamentals and the time, the work. You don't get to that point. I totally agree.
No, it's not possible. Well, not possible for me at least. So you wanna. It's a nice experience when you feel like transported through the music and you feel elevated from daily misery and suffering, and if you can share that, that's just great. But it's usually not that philosophical. You know? Usually, I just try to play really nice and do my phrasings well and make sure that my guitar sounds good, that I have nice dynamics, that I tell a story basically.
Sure.
And then I hear people respond. Either while I'm playing or through the applause they give, you know, or through like comments afterwards. And that's very rewarding. So, because ultimately, I do it for a living, but it's not the livestock that I get from it gives me satisfaction. It's really the interaction with the people.
Yeah. It's a different type of soul food.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you have another piece that you might be able to
I
play?
could play something else. Yeah, I'm still trying to warm up a little bit, but I was thinking maybe it would be nice to play a very idiomatic piece for the classical guitar, which is by Francisco Tárrega, Spanish composer from early 20th, late 19th century. And when he was a child, he fell into a ditch and he hurt his head, and his parents were afraid he would turn blind. So they put him to piano lessons, and so he's an accomplished pianist. He was, and he got attracted to the guitar quite young, and he ran away from home to learn the guitar from a group of gypsies. And his father found him later on and dragged him home, of course. And then he ran away another time. I think it was like early teenagers, and it took his father several days to find him this time. He eventually went to the Conservatory of Maastricht and picked up the piano. Studied the piano, and his piano teacher mentioned to him at some point after he saw him play guitar that the guitar and him, they were made for each other. He should pursue the guitar and not the piano. I'm not sure if that tells much more about the piano playing or the guitar playing. That's the little thing I haven't figured out. So he wrote a modest but charming number of pieces for the guitar, and one of them is the Capriccio Arabe, which is based on an Arabic rhythm. It's capricious, it visits different tonal centers, and people tend to like it. It has some Spanish flavors to it.
Okay.
obviously because well, Spanish culture has, of course, had a lot of influence from the Arabic world through the...
Sure, the Moors were in
The
Spain
Moors,
for a long
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
They would have been in France too if the French king wouldn't have stopped it.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so Capriccio Grave. You're welcome.
Your mic fell down.
Oh.
So that's all right. Technical things.
Yeah, that happens.
That is
the banging is
amazing.
go- Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, throughout the concert, of course, you get to set the atmosphere a little bit, and there's a different energy to that. It's longer lines, basically. I'm glad you like this one.
Oh, really nice. So it must have taken a long time to become proficient at classical guitar. Do you remember how long, or was it a very long gradual progression?
I just remember after I came from Conservatory, I felt like I was like incredible.
Yeah.
And I was behaving a little bit in ways that way, but yeah, I was totally not ready for the world, actually. I got a few very good chances. I played with a band from the Netherlands all over the world, so that was really nice.
Yeah.
And that was half school, because the lady that ran the orchestra, basically, she would let you know what she was thinking.
Oh, that's great. Although painful at the time, perhaps.
Yeah, well, it was very harsh, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, you have to get through that and get. Maybe that's what I was trying to refer to earlier. If you make it your profession and you've got all these romantic ideas and love for the instrument. That's going to be it's so personal that you're going to be hurt really quick and people don't love it the way you do.
Oh yeah.
And I had to really break away from that because it was just not manageable that way. You have to keep distance. You have to be able to hear people say like, oh, you have to play it differently because it sounds wrong. You say, okay, let's do that. You know. So, and that makes you grow. At some point, you've come to a place where you just know like, well, this is the right way. And then there's always multiple right ways, by the way. It's not like this is one right way, but it's hard to say it that way. I'm trying to capture it in the best possible wording. You're playing something and you know the phrasing is going like this and you can play with the time. You could have done it in a different way, but if you don't do it, then you've missed out on an opportunity, obviously. Yeah, so there's tons of ways. Every time you discover something new. And I think I'm better than 2 years ago.
Oh, that's great.
Next year I'll probably think, too bad I did it not today because last year was not that good.
But that's part of growing up and maturing too.
Yes.
Aging. Yes. That's the good part of the aging process, right?
I've only seen good parts of aging so far, so it's,
I agree with you on that one. Believe me, I do. So could you tell us a little bit about your practice for performance, your performance practice?
you mean as in preparation for concerts? Well, it depends a little bit on the kind of concert. Sometimes when I do weddings, there's a set list that people want to hear, and then you have to find or make arrangements and prepare those, and then you have to play those, obviously. When I practice, prepare for a concert, there's a few things that I'd like to have in place, because as I said earlier, there's always something new to learn from a piece of music, a new insight, which will help you actually also understand the music at a deeper level. And they're very subtle things, but there's always moments in a piece where you kind of you have to be careful. So I like to talk to those moments as markers. Around those elements, those phrases where you struggle, you have to have a marker, so that when you are there, you can restart your brain, basically. So you play through a difficult section, maybe that one, something like that should always work, and you have to place that within the piece as a new thinking, new thought process. But it can't be note by note because there's too many notes, especially if you're nervous.
No, it's phrasing through the whole thing. Otherwise, you get stuck.
That's so the markers are to help you move on through sections where you otherwise might get stuck. In Bach, there's a lot of examples where certain places you end in the same way, but you get through it differently. So something else follows the same phrase. And exactly. Because
you might go the wrong way.
You get into a loop and you get stuck if you're not careful. So that's also where I would place a marker. When I study a piece, there's a few things that are important. It's like knowing the exact fingering and the exact timing of a piece of section of music. So I want to be able to count through a piece of music, even when it means that I slow down. I want to be able to know where my beats are at all times, because if the rhythm is shaky, everything is shaky. And then with regards to the hands, gosh, how can I say that best? Maybe an example. So, for example, the Allegro from the Prelude Allegro, Bach's 998, it starts. That was a good start. And for example, this jump. At the beginning it's a very awkward one because you're sitting in second position, as this is called, and you go to position 4. Your pinky goes to the 7th or 8th fret. Oh, see, I was wrong. It's position 6. That was a good example because actually I had to think about it. You should be so clear about these things, and this is just the opening of the piece. I've practiced a million times, and I've never thought of this one particular. Okay, which position is this? I ask my students all the time. So you're in position 2. What position are you going for? Because if you don't know the distance, chances are that you are not accurate. So those are all the details that I try to fish out of the piece to make work.
So music is all in the details.
Yes.
There's a lot of precise details that you need to put in there. And it's paying attention to those that makes the glorious thing that we sit back and go, wow, do that again! The thing with the guitar and music, written music is that the distance between the writing, the music on the page, and the execution on the guitar is huge. As I said earlier, on the piano, the C is always the C, so the association with the notes is much stronger than on the guitar. So I
encourage my students, and as I do myself, to sometimes just go find a guitarist you like and figure out what they're doing just by listening and looking.
Yeah.
My first experience was finding out a piece of music from a record, you know, where you have to put the needle on, which was a tedious process. It took me 2 days, but then I knew the piece complete and from memory. And it tells you something about how our brain processes music. It does not process music from a page that well.
No, it's all oral.
It's all oral, and you have to make the switch to go from the page to the music, beyond the guitar.
Yeah.
Because we get stuck in fingerings like, as guitarists. Like, oh, second finger, look. Oh, you're using second finger. Oh, I like this band. We have those discussions as guitarists.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. Well, I hate to cut this discussion off, but we're a bit out of time.
Oh, gosh.
And please come on January 26th at 7 o'clock to hear Robert Bekkers at Christ Church United in Dracut. We'll also have at 4:30, there will be a poetry reading by, Matt Miller, Cindy Veck, and Kate Hansen Foster. And on Friday at 7, we will have the visual presenters, Claire Gagnon and Tanya Prather. But at 7 o'clock on Saturday, we will have Robert Bekker.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.